New York, more specifically Manhattan, is one of the busiest spots in the world, where every day is traffic jam after traffic jam, then more traffic jams. To give you an idea of the scale of the problem, let's say that according to 2025 data, over 700,000 cars enter downtown Manhattan every single day. At the same time, the situation has gotten a lot worse in recent years because of this railroad tunnel that connects New York State to New Jersey across the Hudson River. A lot of people are actually counting down the days until it finally falls apart. Yeah, you can drive through it, but very often it's just closed because of another accident causing new jams, delays. Well, you get the idea. However, things might change soon because right now there's active construction going on both banks of the Hudson and on the river itself. A $16 billion transportation project is kicked off, which is rightly called one of the most important and toughest in recent U.S. history. Well, let's dig into what came out of the teamwork between New Jersey and New York, who were trying to save local folks from the headaches of a crowded area. The problematic route you can use to get from Manhattan to New Jersey and back again is the North River tunnels, right under the Hudson River. If you peek inside, you won't find anything especially remarkable. They're just tunnels, like hundreds or even thousands scattered across the states. Besides, their condition isn't great, and there's a reason for that, since this is a railway that was put into service back in 1910, meaning it's over 100 years old. Just imagine, the North River tunnels were built back when tunnel boring machines already existed, but you couldn't just pay millions of dollars and send one to dig the tunnel. Instead, there were early versions of today's machines, also tunnel shields, but with no automation and barely any decent conditions. Everything in front of the shield was dug out by hand, and then the tunnel walls were reinforced by hand also. On top of that, the workers suffered from decompression sickness because they had to keep the work area under high pressure. Without it, water could flood inside the tunnel. You think anyone back then ever wondered what Manhattan would look like in 100 years? It turned into one of the most densely populated places in the world, with 1.7 million people living on just 23 square miles. Manhattan's a neighborhood full of jobs where people come in every morning and leave in the evening. And obviously it's not just the folks living in Manhattan itself, but people from other boroughs too. It's home to some of the most iconic places in the entire U.S., like Wall Street, Central Park, the Empire State Building, Times Square. Lots of people visiting New York make it their goal to see these spots. Of course, none of the builders who put up the North River tunnels at the start of the last century ever thought about this kind of development. The tunnel's tech today is basically stuck back then. Plus, some features still match the population size from that time. Surely there was some kind of forecast, but definitely not for 100 years ahead. In the end, the North River tunnels only allow 24 two-way trips per hour and basically run at full capacity during rush hour. After all, a 100-year-old structure might not hold up under heavy loads. In 2012, everyone got a chance to see why the North River tunnels are hopelessly outdated. Hurricane Sandy hit the U.S. It's the biggest hurricane in the Atlantic ever recorded by diameter, with tropical storm force winds covering 1,150 miles. All the states were getting ready for the hurricane's arrival. Specifically in New York, all flights at several airports were canceled, nearby tunnels under the Hudson River were shut down, and bridges were closed too. Evacuations were happening in some places. Still, the hurricane caused nearly $65 billion in damage and took 158 lives. A nightmare event that led to unbelievable destruction despite all the prep. North River tunnels couldn't handle Sandy either. Because of the hurricane, both passages were flooded completely for the first time ever. The surge damaged wires, electrical systems, concrete walls, and drainage systems. Due to storm damage and the aging tunnels, the number of component failures inside went up, which caused more frequent delays. The Northeast Corridor Commission looked into all the movement data for the North River tunnels and the equally old and deteriorating Portal Bridge and concluded that between 2014 and 2018, there were 85 days when delays on these routes lasted over 5 hours. Speaking broadly, the commission figured that over this time frame, people wasted about 2,000 hours stuck traveling. That's more than one full day of big delays every month. To get a clearer picture of the problem's size, it was also pointed out that the North River tunnels, even though they're a really short stretch, link up 20% of the country's economy since they carry more than 200,000 people each day. Remember the 24 trains an hour in each direction the tunnels could handle? After Hurricane Sandy, they said if things stay the same, the North River lines will have to be shut down one at a time, bringing capacity down even further. maybe as low as 9 trains per hour, meaning a 63% cut in service. Experts also added people from North River will switch to other routes, including car routes, which will cause some serious traffic jams. And imagine if those 100-year-old tunnels suddenly just stopped working. New York could be facing a total transportation collapse. But you know what's really interesting? Just a year before Hurricane Sandy, which basically finished off the North River tunnels, the Gateway program was introduced, a plan to replace the century-old tunnel under the Hudson River. They decided to replace the old tunnels in the most obvious way by building a new underground tunnel, and they didn't get creative with the name. The tunnel was named after the river, Hudson. There's hardly any difference at the entrance and exit of the new route. The train will enter not far from the 100-year-old tunnel's entrance and come out nearby just the same. However, there is a difference, of course. As you can see, the new route won't be straight, but in other ways, the differences will be huge. That's why the project is called one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in modern U.S. history. Right now, they're getting ready to build the portals on both sides of the future tunnel, in Manhattan and across the river in New Jersey. Unfortunately, the fact that they're located really close to the old tunnel portals doesn't give any advantage, so there's a ton of work ahead. Meanwhile, all this is happening in the heart of a non-stop bustling city with thousands of miles of underground lines and other installations you absolutely can't disrupt, or else you risk knocking out part of New York or New Jersey. On the New Jersey end, a huge project is underway within the mega project, relocating the Tunnel Avenue Bridge and utilities. As part of the tough prep work before drilling the Hudson Tunnel, the plan is to build a brand new bridge crossing and prepare the site to start drilling the tunnel's western section. This stretch of the future route will be 2 parallel tunnels, each about a mile long and around 25 feet in diameter, going all the way to the end of New Jersey's land, after which the route will pass under the river and reach Manhattan shore. Its construction will be done using something that couldn't be used 100 years ago, tunnel boring machines. 2 giants, 30 feet tall and over 330 feet long, will seriously make building part of the new tunnel a lot easier. Well, of course, not just by their looks. The important thing is their performance, which is really impressive. According to the initial specs, each machine with its rotating cutters will dig through about 33,200 cubic feet of rock per day. By the way, have you ever wondered how they actually get those giant tunnel boring machines out when they finish their job? For the project on the New Jersey shore, they'll build a special shaft to pull the machine out. But it's not just about drilling, because any modern tunnel involves a ton of extra work, especially when the route is that important. So besides the main drilling, the workers will need to create cross passages between the 2 tunnels. This is necessary for convenience during construction, as well as for safety once it's done. Using partitions, for example, it'll be possible to move from one tunnel to the other in case of an emergency. And of course, no tunnel would be complete without lining. The builders will have to equip the tunnel with protection that can withstand all the tests nature throws at it. And naturally, quite a bit of time will be spent on waterproofing. Part of the route on the New Jersey side is expected to be done by 2027, after which construction under the river will start. For now, they're just waiting for everyone to finish up on Tunnel Avenue, which will finally let the tunnel boring machines get going. By the way, judging by the Gateway program's website, the wait won't be that long. The prep work on the New Jersey side is set to wrap up by 2025. So what about the portal on the other side? It's still too early to talk about being ready to start tunneling here. Right now, they're working on preparations, which have been split into a separate project for the concrete lining of Hudson Yards. This part of the whole project actually kicked off back in 2012. That's when work started on the first 2 phases, which wrapped up in 2018. As of today, the workers are already in the 3rd phase, and once that's done in 2025, the main goal will be reached. Penn Station will be ready to connect with the future rail line under the Hudson River. Next, they'll have to build 2 parallel tunnels, each 700 feet long, the same way as on the opposite shore. However, the Manhattan part will really stand out, so much so that building the 700-foot-long stretch is expected to take from 2025 to 2029, which means about 4 years. The fact is, the tunnel route goes through a really dense area, lots of traffic, plus a jumble of pipes, fiber optics, cables, and everything else Manhattan relies on. That means the work has to be done with surgical precision to minimize any risk of accidents. Also along Manhattan shore, there's old fill that can bring up obstacles like archaeological objects, concrete slabs, or debris. There are even pile foundations from the West Side Highway that fell apart in 1973. And actually, like we said, on the Manhattan side, parallel tunnels need to be only 700 feet long, which doesn't really suit tunnel boring machines that are about 330 feet long themselves. You know what I mean? Regular TBMs just aren't efficient here. So what's the solution? The contractor suggested using a protective tunnel shield, which, unlike traditional tunnel boring machines, lets you do most of the work underground and also makes everything way neater. On top of that, the Manhattan part of the tunnel project will need an access shaft designed and built. It'll be used to remove the tunnel boring machines that come from New Jersey over to the Manhattan side. After that's finished, the shaft will have to be converted into a permanent ventilation facility for the subway. That's when you realize why it'll take so long to build such a short section of tunnel. Yes, that's the problematic Manhattan part. The truth is, the problems don't stop there, because the riverbed of the Hudson near the Manhattan shore is made of silt that's not solid enough to build tunnels without ruining the river's ecosystem. If nothing's done about it, the tunnel boring machine will, first of all, disrupt the local underwater life, and second, could cause the tunnel to collapse. For this reason, in May 2024, another project kicked off within the Gateway Mega Project, where they need to drill wells into the riverbed and then pump cement slurry under pressure through special pipes. It mixes with the natural soil, turning into a solid mass, creating stabilized columns that form a sturdy platform. And that's exactly when the area becomes suitable for the tunnel boring machines to go through. This part of the project is set to be done by 2027. If we talk about the whole project, the plan is to finish it by 2035. By that date, everything on both banks will be done and the two tunnels will be connected. But honestly, it's hard to say the exact date since there are so many challenges. Well, you've just seen for yourselves what everyone involved with the new Hudson River Tunnel project will be up against. The project will surely be welcomed not only by people tired of sitting in jams caused by the crumbling 100-year-old tunnel, but also by those who have a soft spot for this old route. Why? The Gateway Program's plan says that after the new tunnel is built, they'll start fixing up the old one. Each North River tunnel will be shut down for over a year for major renovation. It's tough to picture that happening now since it would cause an instant traffic collapse, but once the new tunnel's up and running, that won't happen. Some of the traffic from the century-old tunnel will move over to the new one. The major overhaul will include absolutely everything needed to make the North River Tunnel safe again. The plan calls for removing the existing ballasted tracks and installing new rail fastening systems. Driving through the tunnel and worrying that any emergency could turn into a disaster, that's on the list to fix too. The power supply, signaling, communication, and fire safety systems will be upgraded. Basically, they'll become what you find in modern tunnels. Also, they're going to fix what took the hardest hit from Hurricane Sandy's salty water, the concrete structures. The drainage system will be improved too, or rather updated, since the plan says new solutions will be installed to prevent serious damage from any future big hurricane. All of this is supposed to take 3 years, with 2038 set as the end date. But the important thing is to get the new route done, because without that, any big reconstruction of the old one will kill the traffic on both opposite shores of the Hudson River. So now let's think about what'll happen once the new route's complete and the old one's been fixed up. First of all, of course, there will be fewer traffic jams because the emergency route will at least become less of an emergency, meaning a lot of people won't have to wait hours for their train or take other routes that get overloaded. The new route could also affect the traffic situation, which is pretty bad in New York. New York's the most congested city in the world. According to the 2023 Global Traffic Scorecard, which analyzes traffic data, the average driver navigating the city in 2023 lost 101 hours stuck in rush hour traffic. That's the highest figure among nearly 1,000 cities worldwide. In Manhattan, for example, during peak morning hours in the first quarter of 2024, cars were moving at just 11 miles per hour, and it's getting worse. In 2023, vehicles in the area were moving 11% faster. And this is where a new train route will come in, likely encouraging many folks to park their cars and hop on the train. For that, the U.S. and New York will be grateful too, since traffic jams in such a crowded city cost $9.1 billion when you put time into dollar terms. Plus, the city and country will appreciate the project even more, because some estimates say it'll bring in an extra $19.6 billion of economic activity. For example, just for the soil stabilization project near the shores of Manhattan, the workers will get $190 million. For moving the Tunnel Avenue Bridge and utilities, $35 million. Less, but still quite a lot. The project will also create thousands of jobs during construction and some more afterward. The new route will need maintenance, just like the new trains that'll run on it. Besides that, it's worth mentioning that with the new tunnel under the Hudson River, locals will feel safer. The complete shutdown of the tunnels during Hurricane Sandy showed that even the safest tunnels by definition, the ones you'd use to get from one neighborhood to another, can be destroyed. Surely builders will take this into account when making the new route, so people will have a way to get from shore to shore, even in the toughest situations. Overall, there's no doubt why the Gateway program, especially building a new rail tunnel under the Hudson River, is currently one of the most important projects in the U.S. Once it's done, locals will be able to breathe at least a little easier.